Okay. Yes. Absolutely. I would eat some food. We're live right now, Cheryl.
Oh, are we?
Yeah. I don't know if there's anybody out there, but we are in a different venue. Here's Fred.
We gotta get the message out to the those guys.
Yeah.
Make it so.
For some reason, Google Mail is taking a little bit to get going here. There we go. To the computer plug.
Good morning.
Good morning, Fred. We've got a little bit of a situation. We've changed venues at the last minute. Can you hear me okay?
You're coming through fine.
Good.
Matter of fact, better than usual.
I don't know what that's all about. Let's see. Eating movie calories. Yes. No, I can't see it. We're gonna split.
And cheese.
Yeah, the croissant.
Yes.
Si.
Okay.
Solo. One.
Only
medium.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Two plates.
Yes, please.
Sure. Okay. Well, we can split it up. Just bring empty platter.
Uh huh.
And all.
Okay. For drinking.
Just a possible.
That's an hour.
Si.
It's the same.
Yo quiero también algo.
It is. So, only to this just.
Sin duda quiero café.
Okay.
Let's see this.
Y el Egg Benedict.
12 minutes. Okay.
Okay. Gracias.
Separate. Bill.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Separate.
All right. Why don't we have the meat in here?
Pero si quieres un plato aparte. And for drink.
Oh, we do have the meat in here. There's just nobody on here.
Here. We didn't go to the other. It was on.
There we go. No, well, you know what's throwing me off, and I forgot, is that if I leave a window that, like, say it's broadcasting, but I go to a different window, then the meat pauses the video feed, and so even though it's available, it's
Good morning, Cheryl.
using other resources of the computer to broadcast video. Yeah. Cheryl, you're going to need to mute yourself.
And yours is just a picture graphics?
No, shouldn't be. Oh, how's that?
I turned it on. There we go.
Oh, that's just the general turn your speed. I mean, that's for anybody. You've got a different situation going on. Right? All right, so we still got a few moments, and this actually looks like it's going to work.
It's the Scott Simpson Computer Club Traveling Show.
There you go. This would not have worked with the old computer setup. Could you imagine? Okay. No, this is fine. Okay. Now it should just be a graphic. Cheryl's not still on.
I know.
You left.
Figure out here you in person.
I'm missing anything else? Well, Christine sent me this article that I meant to put into our lineup. But I'm afraid I didn't even finish getting to read it. Which would have been a good time. Let's see if I can bring it up right now. Ooh, we're a moment away from starting. ¿Puedo tener un vaso de agua también? Gracias. Okay, well, here we are. We got Fred online. We got Bill, Cheryl, and myself sitting here in Colibri, and this is our start time, give or take a few seconds. Welcome to the San Carlos Computer Club. We're not sure how many people are going to come join us. We've actually, at the last minute, had to change venues. When we arrived at Tequilas earlier today, we discovered an interesting story about somebody, a drunk driver, taking out the internet connection. The pole out front has been hit. Actually, this is not first-hand information, but I was told that one of their employees was for a ride and just almost got hit by this drunk driver. Oh, here comes Judy. Hey, Judy. And oh, everybody's coming in. Great.
You got a new hat?
Me? I've just got one of many. Good morning, Judy. Good morning, Chester. Gracias. We're in a completely different venue. I don't know if you probably missed me saying that we showed up at Tequilas this morning and there is no internet. The drunk driver took out their internet connection. So we're slightly behind schedule. And in a different location, we've chosen the nice people at Calabrese has agreed to let us use their bar space for this next hour. And they've turned off their music for us so that we can be heard, and we're getting breakfast.
Wish I were there.
Yeah, what are you doing at home?
Well, I'm waiting on an appointment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I came with some topics as I typically do, but right off the top of the hour, have you guys been paying attention to 23andMe? Have you done any genetic tests, DNA tests online? Anybody?
I did ancestry.
Okay. If you're paying,
But that was years ago. This was like probably 8 years ago or so.
for some reason, I feel like they had an arrangement with 23andMe. Does that sound right?
Maybe, I don't know. It seems like
23 and
they
me
bought,
just went bankrupt.
I thought they bought 23andMe or something.
Yeah, I
23 and me, 23 and me just went bankrupt.
yeah, that's the reason I bring it up, is because of that genetic data that you left with them now may end up in the hands of some new owner. And so the recommendation across the board is to get in there and delete this data before it ends up some other owners. They had a self-mandate to keep it all under control, but now that they're going bankrupt, they're going to be on the chopping block, and your data is probably one of the most valuable commodities in this purchase.
Well, they're filing Chapter 11, which means that likely someone will buy them out.
It also looks like the founder that took it public may be interested in buying it back. But if that doesn't happen, then there's definitely a concern of where that data is going to go in the future.
Do you really care?
Well, I think you do, because we live in a world now where you want to always be thinking about limiting the amount of data that's out there. It's just good hygiene in this world, digital hygiene, to not just leak data out there. The problem with the day and age we're living in now is we're collecting and saving stuff we don't know how will be used in the future.
So we're using depends to control the leaks.
There you go.
Digital depends.
Digital depends. Also, I think there's something very, very powerful about taking those steps to ensure that data does not end up in somebody else's hands when later that data is in somebody else's hands. Something has been violated, and that violation can be held up and used as an example. So I think it's two things. I think one is really just having good personal hygiene with your data. You just don't want to be leaking data out there. You want to keep it as conservative as possible. And the other is to set a precedence where there is a system for deleting it. You followed the system to delete it, and somebody ended up with it anyway. And if somebody ends up with it anyway, what that shows is a chain of events that are not properly regulated if you've taken all the right steps. So that
It may be that when we signed up to give them our DNA, that we agreed to allow them to use the DNA in their statistics.
I'm certain we did, but there's no terms of service that would well, actually, I can't say that so broadly. What I can say is that they have provided a means to pull yourself out of their system before anything like a purchase happens. And I think people should take advantage of that. Just my 2 bits on it. And I really don't have an article to point to. It's just been in the news, and I was listening to some people talking about it this morning. I'm thinking, yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good advice. It's just the idea of not allowing to as much data as you can from getting out there. Like when you have the ability to limit the amount of data that's being put out there, you should probably take advantage of it. I would imagine that the ability to remove the data only exists because of European regulation. Well, that aside, and the 3 normal things that I mentioned, the Bill of Digital Rights, the bed and breakfast, which I'm getting filled up with reservations all the time, and we're about ready to switch over to 2025 pricing, which I can tell you for sure is going to be a incremental increase based on inflation. So if you know the inflation rate, you're going to know what our new prices are going to be. And I still give a 10% discount for anybody that just mentions they have ties to San Carlos. We are San Carlos friends. The Smartphones for Dummies 2 presentation I'd like to give at some point in the next few months. We are still taking topics for it and curious on your feedback. So, hey, Jim found us. Look at that. All right. Welcome. We've got a few people online. We don't have a presentation screen, so you can't see who's online.
Parking's not so good here.
Oh, that stays right there in front.
All right. Well,
Talking about inflation,
we've got
I would
Chester, Fred, and Judith online. Judy online. Say that again, Chester.
I said, talking about inflation, I would suspect that inflation in Alaska is greater than in the 48
One says no.
because of the transportation requirements.
Yeah, I'm far from an expert in that area, but we all often refer to just living in boom or bust. There's stability in Alaska. So yeah, I would imagine that when it's good times, they're very good times, and when there's bad times, there's very bad times. At least in my period, my experience. Actually, as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm remembering back when I was 15 years old, and we were going through a bust time, and one of the things the banks were trying to prevent was people dropping the keys off at the door, because they owed more money on the houses than they were worth. And people were just fleeing the state, and they were just walking away from property in Alaska.
One of the things that really upsets me is listening to the press always talking about reduction in inflation, but that's not so. What you're really looking at every month is a reduction in the increase in inflation. There's no reduction in inflation. It's just a reduction in the rate of increase. But they never clarify that.
Well, Chester, that's a very interesting distinction, because I've been thinking about that as we've been watching the news, and a number of reports now said prices never go down, and that's what you're talking about, right? Is like,
yes.
They
would only go down.
Expecting them to stay or go up, and what we should be monitoring is the change in how quickly those things are going up.
And the only time that they would really go down would not be in a recession, but in a depression. In a depression, when salaries, particularly union salaries, take a hit and people get laid off, that's when prices go down. But unless you reduce the labor element cost, you're not going to get any reduction in prices.
Well, hey, Pop, welcome. We have ended up in a different venue this morning. And we were talking, I think aren't you and Mom people that have used 23andMe, we started out the conversation with the general recommendation is that you should go into your 23andMe and delete the data. Since they're going bankrupt, we don't know what's going to happen to the data next. And Chester's comment, which I think is valid, especially what generation you are may matter more or less. But why? What does it matter? And as a principle, I feel like we're living in a moment where some data hygiene is required, that you don't want loose data out there. So whenever you're given the opportunity to remove some data from getting in the wrong hands, you should take advantage of that. And that's what they've done, is they've got a system in your 23andMe account that allows you to remove you from their system. I think just as a practical matter, you should be going behind yourself, good housekeeping, data hygiene, clean this stuff up. The other matter that I think is very poignant in this moment in technology is that when you go through these steps that have been put in front of you to do something like remove yourself, then your data ends up showing up anyway. We're setting a precedence of things that need to be pointed out, and possibly it's an example of poor regulation. They went through those steps to get your data out of that system, and still your data ended up being abused. At the very least, it's an example of areas that need to be reinvestigated, and you're playing your part in that.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, Scott. I wouldn't have given that much thought, but the less information out there, personal information, the better. So that's probably a good process to go through.
You know what will be interesting to see? I was listening to some folks talking about genetic data this morning, and they were talking about using genetic data like DNA testings to help them predict where people's skills would be. So it would, like the most extreme example is that part of your college application would be submitting your DNA results.
Oh, yeah.
If you can imagine something like that, well, then you can imagine all kinds of scenarios, like trying to use AI on your DNA information to assign insurance rates for driving. Just to take it to the extreme abuse. It doesn't seem that hard to abuse.
Makes a lot of sense. I have to track down two different, I think we used, I don't know whether we use Ancestry or 23andMe. I mean, your mother was bound and determined she was Scottish, so we had to do it over again. and so I think we both did the 23andMe, and then we had her do the Ancestry one.
Well, and I don't know if this is true or not. I haven't had a chance to Google it, but we were just talking. I have this vague memory that they merged in some way. So it could be that even if they were independent when you did it, it's all the same data now.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't followed it at all. So
Yeah, I really, information comes and goes through me all the time. So
right.
I've been an expert at it for a couple of days there, and now I know nothing.
Yeah. Well, sounds like something worth paying attention to. All right.
There was one interesting thing I learned from the analysis of my DNA. There are a lot of interesting things, but one of them that was very peculiar is that I would not like turnip greens. That shows up in my DNA.
And is it true?
Yep. And I don't like the little trees either.
Oh.
And little cabbages. Broccoli, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. Now, was that 23andMe that provided that information to you, Chester?
I didn't pay any attention.
Oh.
I got it in the mail and I thought it was interesting, and considering my age, I could care less what they do with it.
Well, and the flip side of it as well. I mean, quite honestly, these opinions come from the society we're living in right now. But if we were living in a much more open, trusting society, you can't help but imagine having all these different styles of DNA on file. Oh, thank you. Would benefit the general populace. I mean, just in general, you would expect that to have value to us, to have access to that kind of data. But I don't feel like we're living in that kind of world. I feel like we're living in the kind of world where we have to think about everything and have a rule for it at this point. Well, I have just been served Eggs Benedict.
No sugar.
And so you guys get to hear me talk and eat at the same time. As usual, I brought some articles I thought would be interesting for our group, but I'm much more interested in the things that you guys are interested in these days. And so if anybody has a topic or anything they'd like to talk about, a story or some tech they'd like to share, please shout it out right now, because I'm about to.
I have one.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I have one. For the last month or so, every time I turn on my computer, I get a pop-up window. And it's an upgrader.exe, upgrader program.
Okay, that
And-
sounds wrong.
And I know, and I can't associate it with any company or any sponsor. It goes away on its own before the computer starts up, but it's a pop-up and it's kind of irritable. That's all.
And you're running Windows 11, right?
Yes, we're on Windows 11.
So the first place I would look in is startup items. If you go,
I did, but I couldn't find it.
oh, you didn't find it in startup items.
No, I didn't find it.
Okay. The other place that you might look for it, geez, it sounds like you need to download malware bytes,
I do.
and it doesn't find anything for you there.
No, I haven't done it. I need to do that. I used to have it, but I've lost it.
Well, pardon me.
Give me the name again, please.
Malware. I'll stick it in the chat here. Malware bytes. And it's still the same recommendation. I don't feel like you need to buy this program or keep it installed. I feel like you load it up when you're having questionable behavior, you use it. It either solves your problem or it doesn't, but then later you're probably just removing it because it gets updated daily. Again, I don't feel like there's a reason for the subscription. I feel like every protection software we have right now suffers from those unfound infections. And we all of them use the same kind of style of discovery, which is somebody has to get infected. And it's only after that they're able to learn how to identify that infection, see how it's compromising people, and then build against it so that they can protect against it. And this is the problem in the whole industry with antivirus, anti-malware software, is they really have to be aware of that infection before they can do anything about it. So when you keep that in mind, any given antivirus is ahead of the game than any other. And we've been recommending you stick with Microsoft for a completely different reason than their ability to be ahead of the game. We've recommended it because they have a closed kernel when you use their software. And having that kernel, the kernel is the root of your operating system. And by keeping that closed and secure, it's very difficult for something to be modified at such a ground level that you would not be able to identify it or remove it without wiping the entire computer. If you can keep it out of the kernel, then it's like cruff on the surface. But if it gets in the kernel, there's a good chance the only resolution will be to wipe it blank and start again with your system.
Oh, God, no.
So that's why we recommended Windows Defender since Windows 10. Actually, we should have been recommending it since Windows 8, but Windows 8 had a whole slew of their own problems. So when you open up that kernel to third-party software, you're doing it not so much for the best security for that individual computer, but more because you need to take advantage of some other aspect, security aspect. And there are special cases for that kind of stuff. And I've used the example before, like say you have 100 computers you have to manage. A third-party piece of software may give you a big advantage to dealing with viruses and antivirus, restoring, and rebuilding computers. that may be worth opening that kernel up so that you can take advantage of those tools. That being said, I also know at the exact same time, Microsoft has done their best to provide their version of those kinds of tools as an all-inclusive shop that you can just add one more subscription to, and now you can do those things without having to open up the kernel. So it's really kind of a floating scale of whether an organization would want to go pure vanilla with their Windows installations or include a third party in them. But from the consumer level, I don't think there's a question anymore. You want to use the Microsoft stuff, and occasionally it's going to have a problem because all antivirus, anti-malware security software has a problem with the inherent nature of how it has to discover and save or protect these systems. So you just have to accept that there's a security risk that's there, but it's not quite as great a security risk in general of having the kernel open. And that's why an application like Malwarebytes may be the solution, is because Microsoft missed it, it's in your system now, and the easiest way to get rid of it would be another application like that, a cleaning application.
I'll run that.
Did you have a suggestion, Bill? Go ahead. I see a hand up.
Different talk.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
And now.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on the clock now because I'm eating.
Oh, okay. I have two problems. One is when I have Facebook going, I go away from that tab for a while and come back and want to go back to where it was. It goes right to the top, it refreshes and goes to the top, and I lose that wherever it is down below. Is there any way to stop that?
So you're refreshing a page.
I just click on the tab and open up Facebook again, and it automatically goes to the top.
So you've left the tab.
Yeah.
You're off on another tab, but when you come back, okay, so I'm imagining, and I haven't tested this out, but one of the things that they've included in Chrome recently, and recently being like in the last 6 months to a year, is a memory saving feature. And what it does is it sets aside your web pages into secondary memory, so it can free up RAM to do other things. And it only puts that stuff back in RAM when you return to the tab. That being said, I don't actually know the controls but I do know controls exist. And so I would, and I'll try right now. Let's just Google. Oh yeah, and that being said, it's probably the exact same thing in the same motor because that's what they use. But I bet the controls are different. Let's just see here. Let's see, Opera, memory, saver, option, tabs. Let's see what happens here. Do not tab snooze specific tabs. There's a form, an Opera form where you can go. Oh, look at this. Somebody has got an instruction for sleeping tabs, as they call them. Let's see if this. What is that all about? How come I can't? Can I get into this a little better? There we go. New memory sets. How Chrome is implementing it. Wow, this has actually been going on for a couple of years now. Looks like this functionality is finally available if you enable pound memory saver, advanced flag in Opera. Well, that's going to take a little bit of sorting out. Memory saver. I wonder if this is from 2 years ago. So I wonder if we just went into Opera and searched memory saver in settings. I don't actually have Opera ready on this computer, or I would do it right now. But I will go in, since it's the same engine, I'll go into Chrome settings and see what we find. Settings. Let's search here for memory saver. I've known this has been going on. I've never bothered to look. Chrome frees up memory from inactive tabs. This gives active tabs and other apps more computer resources. There is an on and off. So Chrome has provided an option under settings called memory. And you can turn this memory saver on or off with a toggle. If it's on, then you can choose one of 3 radio button options: moderate, balanced, or maximum. And I see mine is set to balance, and I have never played with it. I wonder if I turn it off, if that will stop my broadcast from disappearing when I switch to other windows. I'm going to try rolling with it off for a while.
So, that thing is under settings memory.
In Chrome. An Opera, it's got to be something similar.
Similar.
And their forums are offering up an instruction from back when there wasn't a setting, but there was a setting. There wasn't a setting interface, but there was a setting. And they called it pound memory dash saver.
I'll ask around it. Same problem. Every time I start up, like shut my computer off, start it, I get a little box down in the corner says, Google Drive is almost out of memory. There's a little click box says, don't show this again, this message again. And then I close it. And every time I start it up, it comes back. And then there's no way my Google Drive is out of memory. Or out of space. I've looked at it. But it looks like something that they want you to buy more memory. But I can't get rid of it. It looks like spam to me.
It's a pop-up?
Yeah, little box pop up. When I start up the computer from dead.
Is it definitely associated with the Google Drive app? You're running a Windows 10 or Windows 11 computer. So there should be in the taskbar kind of a gray-white cloud. Oh wait, that's wrong. That's OneDrive. In case you're wondering, the gray-white cloud is OneDrive. Oh, and I don't have Google here. So Google, I think it's a kind of a pyramid of multicolored. I think that's what it looks like. But it should be in the task tray. And if it's there, then that's where this message should be coming from. I would definitely, before pursuing anything, because you're certain you have plenty of space.
Well, I go check. It's only a bit of the memory status bar. I've cleaned everything out of it.
Okay. Then,
Did you go to Google Storage or Google Drive? Because Google Storage includes Drive, photos, everything. Okay, Google Drive includes.
and regardless of the distinction, it would show up in Drive as not having available space if somewhere else in Google was using that space, say for example photos
Or mail.
or mail. When you go to look at Google Drive, it would reflect that loss of space in those other systems. So when you go and look at that progression bar,
Yeah.
if you're saying that there's like 5% left or
Maybe 20%.
25% left,
Oh,
then
used.
used.
Not that.
Well, then that reflects used across all the services. Yeah. Yeah.
But what really annoys me is it says, don't show this message again.
And it keeps coming
It
back.
keeps coming back. What says to me, it's a spam or something.
Yeah, or it could be a broken app. It might be that you just need to uninstall Google Drive and reinstall it. And it might just be
Or
broken.
maybe just uninstall.
And then, well, yeah, just get rid of Google Drive on your computer if you want.
What else what would it affect if I took Google Drive off?
Nothing. What it is doing, and this might be something that's going on, it's maintaining a synchronization between the computer and what's in the cloud.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to look and see what you're synchronizing. Maybe that folder, maybe something's broken locally on that. And so it might be removing it, uninstalling the software, removing that sync folder, and then reestablishing the software.
I'll give it.
Yeah.
It's just annoying. I mean, I just have to click the box, click the thing, and close it, and it goes away. For now, until we restart.
Yes. But I think I would start there. I would start with just removing the software and putting it back, because it sounds like it's incorrectly reporting what's going on. Did you have a question there, Cheryl?
Maybe talking about Google.
Well, cool. That's Bill's questions. Anybody else out there?
I claim my time.
It is with space.
Did we ask Judy if she was affected by the X Pro?
Oh, we didn't. Is Judy there? I'm sure if she's still using them as backup. We were definitely affected. My mother-in-law was affected. She uses the same system.
Was.
Oh,
It's called X Pro, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
internet service.
X Pro.
And he had DirecTV, X Pro, and something else. He said the wires were cut off.
What? Solar panels.
Oh, the solar panels damaged too.
I don't understand why a thief would do anything. Was he hoping to just run off with all that stuff?
a bit off.
Yeah.
Just
But wouldn't that destroy everybody's security systems? I
Well,
thought that would be why a thief would do that.
but not solar.
oh,
It's just up.
Cheryl, thank you for a little bit higher level thinking there. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but you think about these remote places, like out in the ranchitos, where you have no neighbors and bad infrastructure, reliant on Juan's system. If you take out his main system, all those houses that use security through his system all of a sudden don't have
All there's
connections.
It's all blurred.
They're all vulnerable now.
That was the only reason I figured when
My goodness, I hadn't even.
a thief was in it.
Well, I hadn't even considered it being that thoughtful of a crime. I thought it was
Just vandalism.
just because we've had that kind of crime for a long time, but we've never had that well organized campaign in
Well,
crime.
the suspect has been videotaped the same night in Villa Hermosa by 4 different cameras, and carrying a stick that they assumed was being used to destroy people's cameras.
Mhm.
It looks like a Swiffer duster thing, but anyways, a mop that looks like he was.
No, it sounds very well planned if that's the case. Well, that's the excitement we've had around here recently. Well, so far so good. However, his internet is holding out, and it's been very helpful. We're very appreciative to these folks for giving us space for today's meeting.
And breakfast is delicious too.
I can't stop eating. Well, Jim, did you bring any topics with you? Nothing specific? Anything you're hacking on right now?
No,
No. Good answer.
everything's working good. I've been looking at different VPNs. I've started sampling them, trying them out. And depending on who your provider is, depends how fast your VPN is. I found out
Definitely. Yeah.
the one I'm using at this house, I connect to a Phoenix server. But if I take it from this house and go to the Tucson house, turn it on, connect to the same server, it's 100 megs slower. And at the other house, I have 1,000 megs up and down. In this place, I would have 250. And I can't even get 250 in the other house. I only get 100.
See, to reiterate, Jim's talking about having more internet at the U.S. house and having less VPN across it. And that consistency or inconsistency or that ratio is all relative to the service provider you're using and your exit nodes and your entrance nodes.
They're both fiber optic, and the Tucson house is a gig up and down. This place is 250 up and down.
Right. But it definitely has to do with how you approach your entrance exit nodes, where you're coming from on the internet and where you're going to on the internet.
But I'm connecting to the same server. And if I run a speed test on that server, it's slower up there than it is down here.
It sounds like there's a consistent path that's more congested from your U.S. connection than from your Mexican.
Any server that I choose is just slow up there, even using WireGuard.
Sure.
Which is faster than the other one.
But I guess what you're really comparing is the amount of bandwidth available to you coming across the border versus locally what's available to you when you're going to you're talking about going to servers in the United States, right?
Yes.
So like for example's sake, going from Arizona to Florida is more congested than going from San Carlos to Florida using the same service.
Tucson to Phoenix.
Okay.
That's where the server is.
I mean, whatever example you want to use.
The software that VPN services use, on Proton, I got a good connect once.
Are you saying there's a number of different VPNs
I
that
use
this,
4 VPNs.
but you're having the same kind of issue across all of them?
No. Proton connects pretty good. It doesn't, one time it connected up at 892. All the rest of the time it's 300.
Oh, even higher than you could get here.
But I'm using the free version.
Oh wow, that's impressive. Have you used it for any video services like? Oh,
You can use it
I don't need that thing. Thank you.
You can use it for Cody or probably Streamio, but you can't use it for Amazon or Hulu or any of those other ones. I'd
Okay.
say.
All right. Well, that's good to know as well. I mean, especially because that's the free version.
Yeah, I only run Cody anyway, so.
Do you know if that VPN, if it can be installed in the Fire Stick? I mean, I assume it can, but
Yeah.
right from the App Store, can you do it? You think?
I believe so, but if not, you can put in anything you want to install on your Fire Stick or Fire TV off your Android phone.
I just watched what JP was telling us when we got here. I just watched their internet was working just fine for us, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. The wireless connection's gone. Hey guys, we're back. Sorry about that. When I asked JP if we could use this space today for our meeting, he had told me that they've been having an issue with their mega cable internet connection, where all of a sudden they lose it and then it comes right back. And that's exactly what's just happened to us. Is we lost the Wi-Fi connection. So it isn't their main connection that's going down, it's the Wi-Fi connection that's going down. So after this meeting, I should talk to him about it, see what the equipment is. That seems like a resolvable problem.
Interesting. While you were off the air, Fred and I were able to communicate.
You should be, because of this Google Meet. It's just me that's missing from it. Or anyone that's in this room right now that was connected to it. Yes. So where were we going with this? Oh, let me just two things. My laptop, I forgot the power supply for, so we're rolling on battery, and it just switched to energy saving mode, which means it could just die at any moment, and that would be the end of our meeting. The other thing is we just got a notification that our meet will end in 15 minutes, and I propose that's as long as we go given my battery constraint. So
I'm looking at the Easy Fire Stick.
Tools.
Easy Fire Tools, 3 separate words, Easy, E-A-S-Y.
hold on, let me write it down in our recommendations because Jim has mentioned this before. Is it E, the letter E, the letter Z?
No, it's the word easy.
Easy?
E-A-S-Y,
Okay.
Fire
Fire
Tools.
tools. Is fire tools one word?
Nope, everything is separate
Okay,
words. It looks
cool.
like it's in the Google Play Store. The reviews are great.
Please.
Safety starts, if you understand, 4.0. Great app to transfer side load apps from your phone. Has some annoyances.
Side loading into your fire stick.
Watch Amazon have updated firmware on the Fire Stick in the last week, as it now can't find any devices.
And then, Jim, you were recommending this because they include the Proton VPN in it. Is that right?
It would be an E, I'm not sure, I think Fire TV has it in their app store, but if not, all you do is you install it on your
Phone.
Android phone, and then you hit this Easy Fire Tools, and it installs it on your TV.
I gotcha. So you get the app installed in your Android device, and it moves a copy of that over to your Fire TV. Oh, that's really smart. Okay.
It's for transfer.
And easy.
And easy, apparently, given the name, of course. Great. So this is a great side loading. Now I have to dig out an old Android phone to try this out.
Cool.
Very cool. I'm going to put under our lunch recommendations, Colibri. And since we are down to less than 15 minutes, unless anybody's bringing up another topic, I'll just mention some of these articles you can read from links on our document. One is just an announcement. If you've been, you know, when we talk about AI, I've talked about Gemini a lot. I use Gemini for a lot of stuff. I think the Google Gemini AI has been really helpful in the program developments that I've been doing. And what they're saying is their new experimental model, the 2.5 Pro, is now available to general users for free, which is all I've ever used is free services. And they've been very helpful. So this is one that we were paying for. People were paying to have access to, and now they've unloaded it for free on anybody that wants to use it. So if you want those details, that's in this article from Engadget. And I really don't know what our countdown is. It looks like my battery could die at any moment. So hopefully you've got access to this document to see these other ones that we're talking about. But in the AI theme that we've been following, Alexa Plus has just launched. If you weren't paying attention, this is the new AI assistant that you could pay a premium to have access to. And most of the reviewers are saying it's a bit disappointing because it's missing a lot of stuff that was announced that they were going to have that they don't quite yet have. And so if you're interested, I don't think anybody, we've talked about Alexa Plus in the past. I don't think anybody's been interested in this. I don't think any of this stuff is no consumer is paying for this stuff. To me, this AI stuff that they keep adding and saying, hey, pay $10 a month for this. For us, general people, that's like 3D TV. I'm not going to go buy one. I mean, if it's an option, if it's a sticker on the side of the box, then yeah, okay, I ended up with 3D TV. But this AI stuff has not been enticing enough. The advantages that you can reap from AI, I have taken great advantage of without paying a dime. And the things that they're trying to sell don't have enough value to warrant that price, except they need to be able to pay for these things that are these machines that are moving in the background making this stuff happen. The latest thing, if you guys, I don't know if you've been paying attention to Sam Altman, the OpenAI guy, but he's out pleading with people. Have you heard about the Studio Ghibli thing? Now this is a Japanese animation, very successful. Boy, I wish I prepared to talk about this because it's one of my daughter's favorite forms of animation. House of the Spirits. Let me think. Can I just pull some of these out of my head? My Neighbor Totoko, I think is the name of the show. But these are movies that have been around since the late 90s, coming into the 2000s. They're a very successful animating production house. And it has taken ChatGPT by storm. People have figured out that they can request images to be written in this format. And so all last week, there's all I don't know if you're paying attention, but there's all these different situations that have been animated in this style, this Ghibli style. And Studio Ghibli is so very important to certain generations online that this is just a viral thing. It's just going nuts right now. Sam Altman had to go to the internet and say, could you please dial it down? Because we're not getting our work done. This is burning too many resources. Which is a really cute statement from a guy that has used every one of these circumstances as a PR. And it just happens to have been like just as things are getting kind of static in the OpenAI front, that this boom explodes. And there's all this press about his business now again. So I have a lot of trouble believing this isn't a little of like drinking the Kool-Aid, where they're kind of feeding on themselves. They're like, oh, don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it. Please don't check out our website and make these photos. We don't have the resources for you to do it. It feels a bit like that. Yeah, it's like, please don't throw me in the briar patch.
Yeah, exactly.
Because every time their value goes up with all of this interest, that number goes up. And that is really the goal of tech these days. It's one of the things that I find to be the most disingenuous part of my industry right now, is that if they can slap a subscription fee on some feature that has value, they absolutely will do it. And it feels like that's what, as we go into the future, that's what we need to be regulating and paying attention to, is how technology advances and improves our lives versus getting these billionaires more money.
I have one thing.
All right, Cheryl, please.
It's sort of a recommendation, but it's also a tech topic.
Okay.
A limited series called 0 Day. I watched it on Netflix this week. It's 6 episodes. Former President George Mullen's comfortably retirement is upended after he's asked to lead an investigation into a horrific cyber attack. So it's a cyber attack that takes out everything all across the United States for 1 minute, the number of people that die, the things that happen, and all the investigation. It's got to be foreign. It turns out it's not. And it,
Oh yeah. Don't spoil it. I watched it. Don't spoil it.
I haven't.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's a very deep. It took me a bit to get into it because I thought at the beginning, what's going on here? This is a little psychotic episodes.
I had such mixed feelings watching this show. I haven't made it a recommendation, but the main character,
Yes.
and to watch his arc,
Yes.
and the kinds of decision making that's having to be done, the kinds of thought process that are out front and then are being kept from you, and then you discover later, really churned me up inside.
I know.
I just like you watch the behavior of politicians, and you can tell I'm trying really hard not to spoil parts of this.
Yeah.
But you watch the behaviors in the open of these politicians and the way they're behaving, and there's such animosity and confrontation and dispute, and then in the background there are these subtle nudges of no, this was the right thing to do, or this is the appropriate way to handle this situation because this is what we know and this is the only way to get there. And I mean, it just left me perplexed for what is the right answer in these situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I watched Mickey 17 the other day.
Oh
I
yeah.
was not impressed.
Oh, you didn't like that?
No. I thought that was, if I was Jonathan, I'd be foaming at the mouth at the moment. This is a Jonathan foaming at the mouth recommendation.
All right.
We're gonna have to use that. We're gonna Make it into an emoji or something.
Right? Yeah.
It's not.
Every yeah, a non-recommendation.
I just found it silly. Silly.
Hmm.
The concept of the extent was okay. I mean, that started out to be okay, but it just got sillier and sillier. In my
Yeah, I mean, I do see that. I really enjoyed this film, even though it was silly, and you have to buy into the concept in the first place of reprinting and retransmitting.
I did buy it.
Yeah. But I found myself at the end of the movie thoroughly entertained. And in the end, that's what a good movie's supposed to do, right? You don't feel like shutting it off. You keep watching it.
See, I had the opposite feeling. I really had to make an effort to get to the end of it.
And my friend was at the movie theater in Guaymas watching it.
Yeah.
She said, you know, it was the first time we'd ever gone to a movie in Guaymas. and she said, it was really interesting and it was kind of fun. Don't ask me what it was about. You know, she said.
Less than a minute.
The one thing I did really enjoy was the print body where it prints out and then it pulls it back and comes
Hey,
back.
guys, we're going to say goodbye. I'm really sorry. It's just my battery's going to die at any second. And so we're going to call this the end of the movie, or the end of the meeting.
End of the movie.
End of the meeting, because we got less than a minute. So until next Tuesday, everybody tech on, and we'll see you then. Hopefully we'll be back at our regular spot. But if not, these folks have been really nice, and it's worked well for us. So you might find us here. Yeah. Until then, adios. Under a minute. You're welcome to hang out
Bye.
with us until we... What was that, Fred? You had something to add? Oh, nope. Didn't matter. Just didn't matter. That's it. He's gone.
We done.
You said that you noticed something when the Wi-Fi signal dropped as
Mhm.
opposed to the internet.
Yeah, there's no reason to think that's an internet problem. That's a Wi-Fi problem.
So how do you solve something like that?
Well, you'd have to diagnose why it's happening. I would imagine there's a good chance they're using the same equipment that they use for a cable router is also their Wi-Fi router.
Okay.
And in that respect, then it is the same thing
Okay.
because it's all built into the same box.
But
But yeah, if that's the case, then Mega Cable should be able to replace it. There's also a number of installations around town where they don't use Mega Cable as their Wi-Fi access point. They use their own network.
like a
Yeah, like a mesh network,
yeah.
whatever. And so that could be a resolution if it's they're using a Wi-Fi router that's being flaky, or even they're just on the Mega Cable router, and it's the Wi-Fi that's going out, but the internet's continuing to be stable. Then you could plug in your own router. There's no reason that Wi-Fi would drop unless it had its own problems, and so it would be able to at least appear to be online at a continual state.
Okay, because in the condo, for the last, I don't know how long, but when I've been watching this Netflix series, I had to turn my VPN on. And every so often, in the middle of the movie, it'll drop and it'll say, unable to show this, like error, cannot see. And I think what's happened is the Wi-Fi's dropped, come back on, and either my VPN has been locked out or there's something, that leaves. I had internet connection all day, but
Yeah, so that's frustrating. If you would definitely have that experience if you were trying to do that here just now, what we
Yeah.
have observed, you would have that experience.
Yeah.
But you'd also have that kind of experience if your service provider was dropping out, just like Juan's problem with the vandalism.
oh,
Yeah, Jim.
You can also get somebody else turns on their Wi-Fi, depending on what channel you're using.
Oh, if you're having Wi-Fi interference, you mean?
Yeah, so somebody maybe just opened up over there, turned on their Wi-Fi, and you're using the same channel. There is an app for your Android device that you can install, or an Apple, that will check your signal and tell you what channel you're on and whether it's busy or congested.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is under the premise that you have some control over it too.
Yeah.
I mean, like even knowing that's one thing, but being able to deal with it's a completely other
It's
thing.
easier to
Yeah.
change the signal. channel.
Well, if you've got access to your equipment, like these folks rent,
yeah.
and so they would have to give instructions to a property manager. Well, that's the other thing I would mention is that most of the modern equipment deals with this stuff fairly well. It's the older equipment that has trouble switching channels.
So probably there's nothing I can do in my VPN or my iPad to.
Well, you know, to answer that question would be to induce the same experience in other internet connections. Like go to Tequila